Okay guys, so 2014 is here and it is set to be another big year for the films. They've got a lot of good stuff coming out this year, especially from Marvel. You've got like Guardians of the Galaxy, the new X-Men, the new Spider-Man, new Captain America. I can't wait for all of these films. But yeah, 2013 was a great year as well, and I just wanted to kind of do top 5 films for me personally from 2013. So yeah, without further ado, let's crack straight on with it. There was a lot of films that I saw at the cinema and I picked up on Blu-ray and things, so yeah, I thought I'd crack on with that now. I know I don't really do too many movie-based videos, but I like to do one every now and again. So yeah, my top 5 of the year. So yeah, number 5 is Man of Steel. Now, of course, this was under a lot of pressure because once we all knew that when Batman was kind of reintroduced to us at the cinema, it was hugely successful with, of course, Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises, and the same sort of hype went into Man of Steel. This was kind of Superman's rebirth. Now, at the same time, I don't think it reached the heights of sort of Batman Begins did. It's not as good a film as that was, in my opinion. But at the same time, it is still a very good sort of action superhero film, and definitely worthy of a reboot, and definitely worthy of carrying on the franchise as well. It wasn't a cheap cash, and it wasn't like that Superman Returns from sort of about 8 years ago now, I think that was. This was very good. It's very well done, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I feel there was a bit too much sort of the same action going on, so sort of someone gets chucked through 5 buildings at a time, and then the same thing will happen sort of 10 minutes later. There's a lot of talking scenes as well in it, but I do feel like this is a good start to a new era of Superman, so I really enjoyed Man of Steel, so that goes in at my number 5. In at number 4 we've got The World's End. I'm a huge British film fan, and the Cornetto trilogy, so of course Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz and The World's End, are sort of the pinnacle at this current day and age of the British film. Very funny stuff. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are 2 of my favourite actors, and it's just great. It's a great sort of film that doesn't really take itself too seriously. The acting's great in it. It's very funny. And I really urge you guys to see this, especially if you've never watched any of the Cornetto films before. You'll probably think, if you haven't seen them before, you'll probably think, why am I calling them the Cornetto films? But in each of the films, there is a reference to Cornetto, the ice cream, which is funny. If you've seen the films, you will understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, definitely worth giving this a watch, and I finally got all of them now on Blu-ray. I got Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and now The World's End, so I'm really happy the kind of all the actors were back in this as well. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost and some of the other guys that have been in the older films as well. So it is a proper trilogy of films, and yeah, definitely worth a watch in my opinion. Number 3 is, of course, I don't have it on Blu-ray, but it's The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. Of course, the latest Hobbit film that came out, it was part 2. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and when I originally saw The Hobbit in 2012, it didn't disappoint me at all. And in my opinion, part 2, The Desolation of Smaug, was even better than the first one. I loved it, especially seeing Smaug the dragon. I thought the special effects on that was incredible, especially Benedict Cumberbatch, his voice performance of the dragon as well. And I heard he did the motion capture as well, which was weird to kind of process in my head, but it really did work well. The whole film was great. It really does sort of suck you back into that Lord of the Rings universe. Not on that grand scale as Lord of the Rings did, because The Hobbit isn't supposed to be at that scale, of course. It is much more of a family-friendly story than the Lord of the Rings was, and it does feel like that in the film as well. It's not as sort of epic, it's not as big, it's not as kind of scary as the Lord of the Rings film were. But at the same time, it is perfect that Peter Jackson is back at the directing these films, because I don't think it would have worked without him. He definitely knows how to kind of suck his audience back into Middle-earth, and I loved it. I can't wait for the 3rd part next year, 3rd and final part, because I haven't read the book. I do own the book. I haven't read it, so I don't know what happens yet, so I'm really excited to see what happens there. So yeah, I loved The Hobbit. I loved the acting in it as well, and yeah, I can't wait to see the 3rd one. Okay, in at my number 2 is Iron Man 3. This came out earlier in the year. I think it came out in April. The reason I put this in there is because I kind of want to dedicate Iron Man 3 to the whole Iron Man series. I think Iron Man has to be my favourite Marvel series of the past few years, because I think purely because of Robert Downey Jr.'s performance as Tony Stark. He is an awesome actor. He has to be up in my top 5 now, purely because of his performance in Iron Man. And I really liked the third one. I don't feel it was as good as the first one, but it was much better than the second one, and definitely one of the best films this year in my opinion. I feel it was a bit more Tony Stark based than Iron Man based. There was a lot more kind of Tony as himself than it was as Iron Man, but at the same time I still really enjoyed that, again because of Robert Downey Jr. and it was a great film, and I can't wait to see where they take this next. I know they are doing a new Avengers film, but who knows if they're going to do Iron Man 4. I heard this was the last Iron Man film. He was going to do the next Avengers, and then he was going to call it quits on Iron Man. But who knows, because he's so popular in the role, who knows if they persuade him to carry on. I really hope so, because I really love the Iron Man films. And like I said, I thought this was a great film, definitely worthy of sort of ending the trilogy if it is the end. And yeah, I loved that one. Apart from, I have to agree with a lot of people, the Mandarin sort of surprise was a bit, I didn't really think that worked, but they kind of roped me round to it. The more I've watched it 3 times, I think I've watched this now. The more I watch it, the more I kind of enjoy it and kind of just get my head around it and just go with it. So yeah, that was my number 2, Iron Man 3. And my favourite film of the year, of course, being a Marvel fanboy, you can expect it to be a Marvel film, and that is the Wolverine. Wolverine has always been my favourite Marvel character, without a doubt, since the first X-Men film, I do believe. And even before that, I used to watch the cartoon when I was a kid, and I really loved kind of the bright yellow suit Wolverine on there. And this film is what I've always wanted from a Wolverine film, solely focused on Wolverine himself, no other X-Men in the film. It was all about him, and I know we had X-Men Origins Wolverine, but in my opinion it was a bit too sort of cheesy. It's a great film. I really enjoyed that film. But it was a bit cheesy with the enemies and everything, and this sort of lone soldier, sort of big hero Wolverine. But no, this was more of a human Wolverine. We get to learn how he becomes the character we all know and love. We get to see him spend a lot of time in Japan, where again that is true to the comics, where he kind of learns his ways really before he goes and joins the X-Men. And I just really loved it. I loved the whole setting of the film. I think it was great that it was set in Japan, because a lot of sort of action superhero films are set in like New York City or anything nowadays, so it's good to get a new setting for such a high budget film. And again, Hugh Jackman again is one of my favourite actors. I love his portrayal of Logan, and I can't wait to watch this one again. I have only seen it once in the cinema, and that was enough for me to know that it was my favourite film of the year. I can't wait to watch this again on Blu-ray. I haven't quite watched it yet, but I will do again, because I love it that much. Really can't wait for the new X-Men film this year as well. That's definitely one of my most anticipated. But yeah, that was my top 5, guys. So the Wolverine was my favourite film of this year. I know it's not going to be a lot of people, so yeah, drop your comments down below on what your favourite film of the year was, or even your top 5, and what you think of my list as well. So thank you for watching, guys. Again, leave your comments down below, and I'll speak to you very soon in my next video. Thank you for watching.